What we're going to do now is we're going to go into a panel discussion. Unfortunately, you get to see me again. I'm not done yet. So this is the Mifan show this morning. But after lunch, I'm not going to talk, right? So we have 4 gentlemen. Gentlemen, do you mind coming up? Yep. Don't feel shy. All right. Simon, yeah. Richard, and Glenn. All right, thanks. So let me do a quick introduction to these 3 gentlemen, and you'll be seeing them quite a bit during the conference as well. Simon is from Kuwait, which is part of Kuwait Petroleum. It's the international arm of Kuwait Petroleum. Simon is the IT director of operations at Kuwait. He has 25 years experience in the industry. Simon, you're based in Rome, yes. Italy. Like I said, the team is football with me, right? So Simon is Inter Milan.
Yes,
fan, right? And
yeah,
you guys
not
are still
a fan of Rome.
Yes, yes. Not a fan of Roma, yes. And you're still in the Champions League?
Yes,
exactly.
For the moment.
Not for long.
Remain.
Not for long, yes. Richard Steele is a veteran in the industry. Richard hails from Guildford.
Yeah, near Guildford.
Guildford, which is close to the Chelsea training ground. I'll not hold that against you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. QPR is my team.
Yes. Richard was a chief technology officer of multiple organizations. And he hails from a telco background, a finance background, a retail background, multiple backgrounds. So Richard can talk about multiple industries, not just one industry. And we're honored to have Richard here. You are a fan of Queen's Park Rangers.
QPR is the...
So we'll not go into the whole Champions League.
No. We don't touch them at all.
Right. And Glenn is the enterprise architect at Ohio State University, stateside in US, right, in Ohio. Glenn has around 30+ years experience in the education technology industry. A great friend of ours and been with WSO2, been a WSO2 champion and partner for a long time, more than 10 years. Glenn is a fan of the other kind of football, the oval-shaped football, right? So the Pittsburgh Steelers in the US.
Funny one.
And today's the after party. You'll get to see a lot of Glenn in the after party. So just keep an eye out. All right, so thank you again. I know this is the panel which sits in between lunch and so you going for lunch and basically the sessions. There was a joke backstage saying Jonathan had like a 5-minute outage and he took like 20 minutes of extra time. Right, so we are going to basically cut down the panel discussion to 20 minutes, not 30 minutes, so that we can go for lunch. So gentlemen, maybe we'll start off with a quick introduction to how you use technology at the various companies. At Kuwait, Richard can talk about a broad experience, and Glenn, we can talk about Ohio State. So maybe Simon, I'll start with you.
Yeah.
How do you use technology in Kuwait? How do you view modernization? And also a little bit of what Kuwait does in terms of technology, please.
Kuwait is a relevant petroleum company in Italy because we have 2,900 stations and also some relevant depots there. But we have also the downstream market with the Kuwait Petroleum in Europe as well. And as you can imagine, it's really relevant not only for the fuel market, the digitization part, but also for the energy transformation challenge that we have. And for us, it's key to have our customer as a main focus. We are obsessed by our customer. And all the technology is a strong enabler to put our customer in the middle of all our initiatives that are coming not only in the fuel market, but also other services that I will talk later. And we started the digital transformation journey some years ago with the business lines, creating new products, new services. And we have also started to work with WSO2 in the last 2 years, changing completely the digital experience of our customers from a multi-channel approach. So website, mobile apps, we use WSO2 to create a unique layer to authenticate, to authorize our customers, and to create a new enabler that is also putting the digital experience at the center of their priority. And in order to do that, we have worked a lot with the business lines. Because one of the big risks to do this kind of projects is to address those projects like technical projects. And the business values are relevant when you have the business lines that are fully participating and understanding the reason for that project. So digital experience was on the top, but another big consequences of using WSO2 in order to authenticate and authorize our customers was also to improve the security of our customer. So we needed to have their data really protected, their behavior that is really analyzed in order to protect from cyber attacks or identities that can be used in order to simulate their behavior externally. And in this sense, WSO2 has been a big value for us.
Perfect. Thanks, Simon. Richard, you worked on multiple WSO2 projects in multiple organizations.
Yep.
And some of them include large SIs as well in the picture.
Yep.
Would you mind explaining one of your experiences with WSO2 as well as modernization in general?
Yeah. So I've just finished a project for the UK telecoms industry. It's a highly regulated Ofcom. So Ofcom is the regulator in the UK for telecoms. And I think we're the second country in the world to do broadband switching. So the idea was all the telecoms companies had to effectively sign up to what's called our hub, which is our messaging hub. And in the old days, as of last year, it took about 10 days to switch your broadband. So you had to phone up the new provider, you had to phone up the old provider and say, I'd like to swap on that day, start on that day. And with this project that we've just delivered, you can do it in 60 seconds, and you never talk to your old provider ever again. So the idea behind it is to improve customer service for the telcos, to improve the time it takes for a customer to look at their contract and go, I'm ready to move. And then all they have to do is the orchestration, so they have to send you a new hub, and that's 48 hours. But all the contracts are done. So the Ofcom in 2016 asked the telco industry to set up this project. It's part of the Telecom Securities Act as well, so we had to follow that, very highly regulated. And then the company that I worked for as the Chief Technology Officer was set up as a not-for-profit, paid for by the whole industry. And then we spent the first 3 or 4 months finding a vendor to do our hub, and we chose Tech Mahindra, which is WSO2's partner, and they brought WSO2 to us. So we were agnostic on the code, we were agnostic on the API, and then we spent about a year effectively building out our messaging hub, and then we started to integrate. We started off with 5 big telecoms companies, and then by the 12th of September, when we went live last year, we've now got 320 companies all signed up. And they all talk to each other via the hub. So WSO2 does all the orchestration, the APIs, does all the messaging, and it basically does all the rules engines. So we have a very stringent SLA. You have to be able to do the switching within 30 seconds, also having to find a customer on the other side as well. And then we also have a latency of less than 1 second for a message to be sent across the platform. And that's all done via WSO2. So it's a fascinating project, and the good thing is that we never had any incidents. We still never had any incidents. It all went absolutely smoothly, touch wood, still does. Yeah. So I finished that project a couple of weeks ago, and from now it's just a run project.
Yeah, perfect, thanks, Richard. And yeah, fingers crossed that it stays the same.
Yes, yeah. Absolutely.
And finally, last but not least, Glenn, so you've been with Ohio State University for a long time. You've been heading the whole modernization initiative. Can you please talk us through what that looked like, how technology played a role there, and bonus points if you mention what WSO2 in there as well. So.
Well, I did a talk last year, and that's our 10-plus year journey with WSO2, so go and see it on YouTube. It gets into the detail, but to keep it short, OSU is like what you mentioned earlier, Mafan. It's the vertical and the horizontal. So yes, university is about students. However, we have a medical center, we have a telecom, we have athletics, we have veterinarians, we have all kinds of businesses within. So imagine how do you connect all those different softwares like Epic, Salesforce, DocuSign, all of them, Workday, PeopleSoft. We're in the middle of that. And to that journey began in 2011, some point back then. How do you improve how data is flowing? And WSO2 was part of that journey to ease the integrations, to expose the APIs to the store, to do the identity information and have that use our local shibboleth SAML implementation so folks can shop for those APIs. So it's a continuing journey. It's never going to end, but we like being in the middle. And I inherited the data space, so I also had the data warehousing and lakehouse. So having all that together just enhances that modernization journey.
Perfect. Thanks, Glenn. By the way, if we do have time, we'll open up to audience questions as well. So if you need to prep for questions, please do so as well. Richard, maybe coming back to you. So telco is highly regulated.
Yes.
Right, highly regulated space. So there's a two-pronged thing, and going back to Jonathan's talk as well on you have capabilities, you have APIs, you have products, and then you have internal APIs and external APIs. But with regulation, the challenge is enterprises ask the question, what's in it for me from a business perspective, right? Am I doing it just for regulatory reasons, or am I doing it for really a business driver and a modernization initiative?
Yeah.
Can you talk through the trade-offs of pure regulation versus what's the monetary value of exposing APIs in the telco space?
So in this particular project, we have about 200 companies who connect directly to the hub. We've got about 100 and something that go via a third-party integrator because they're too small to actually have a coding team to put their APIs in. So we also work with third-party integrators. We call them MAPs, and there are telecoms company specialists, but they also do the orchestration underneath. So they expose their own APIs to these companies as well. So you might get one MAP who says, right, we're going to do the sales channel, and then you'll get the same one that actually then does the pulling of the Ethernet and putting in the other one in the same space. We expose our API for them to be able to connect to our hub, and we have 3 authentication pieces. So we use OAuth2, API keys, and MTLS, and they can choose whichever one they want, or they can use a mixture if they want to. Completely agnostic. We give them the developer guide, we give them the API specification, and then they've had to spend the last, 2 years and a bit having to write all. So imagine, you got a massive telecoms company called British Telecom, biggest probably in the whole country. They have spent millions and millions of pounds having to write code to connect to our hub to be able to create a JSON message with some data in it, all secure, and then they have to send that to an unknown entity. They don't know the other side. I mean, they may do, but let's say they don't. And that entity on the other side then has to read it within a very short space of time. So they've had to write their stack at the same time. And they can write whatever they want, we're completely agnostic. And then they have to send a message back within a very short, so I've got it. We then send a message to them saying, there's your response code, and if there's any failures, and then they have to keep going until the switch has actually been done. So there can be kind of 7 touch points. There can be 15 touch points. So they might say, well, actually, I can't find a customer on my side. So they've had to write their own APIs to expose their customer data to say, well, actually, Simone's swapping from one telco to me, for instance. And I have to say, look, have you got this customer? They have to go into their database. They have to look that customer up. They have to say, and then they have to look at his contract. Then they have to send the contract to the customer. All this takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. And they've had to do it because if they didn't do it, then Ofcom said to them, because it's a regulated project, there's a fine. And if you don't do it, it's 10% of global turnover.
Right.
So that's it, really. So they just had to get on with it.
Yeah, it's the stick.
Yeah, that was the stick.
That's the stick.
And we were the middle piece that said, well, this is how you're going to do it. So we worked for many years with the industry to build up an industry practice document. It's online if you want to read it, if you want to go to sleep. It's a lot of pages, but it actually is the process of how this industry switching is going to work. And it was all greenfield, never been done before. The bankers had done it and the energies have done it, but they had a completely different way of doing it. So it's all brand new to them, and they had to learn, they had to get their sales teams, they had to get their customer services teams, they've had to completely change their business just for this switching.
Yeah. And I think just going back to a point that Chris mentioned yesterday during the keynote when he worked at HMRC, he said like he has a 200-page document. I think he used to tell me that he used to prop up his computer on the document itself.
Yes.
Okay? But with AI, there's some opportunities now where you can feed the document in and allow it to do like automated governance.
Yeah.
So the future looks bright.
Yeah.
Yes. Glenn, I'll come back to you. So we spoke about abstraction yesterday, and abstraction at different levels, right? Abstraction at the service level, the API level, so on and so forth, and then abstraction basically leading to platformless, where you're saying, let me forget about dealing with building a platform and let me start building the business logic. Your journey took you from integration and API management to Choreo. So you've been through different levels of abstraction. Can you talk through your experience on how the teams took that change, what you had to do in terms of people and culture and technology, et cetera?
Yeah. So when we started off, we were with WSO2, we were doing a virtual machine. And very small team. There's probably 3 of us engaged in doing that work. And then we said, oh, we need to scale because Workday or PeopleSoft was coming on board, the big ERPs. And you got to make sure you scale. And that, right about that time, I think Kubernetes was coming out. And I think WSO2 was also looking at it at the same time. We took that journey to Kubernetes and put WSO2 and all the stuff there so we could scale it out. That was very interesting as far as we created a DevOps team, and that got the interest of other folks from the infrastructure side, the middleware, the security team, so they were all engaged at just doing that project. It didn't matter about the integrations, it was just doing that work. So having that cloud native mindset got everybody together. Then we got tired of doing it ourselves, Kubernetes, because if you know Kubernetes, you have to know kubectl or kubectl, however you want to pronounce it. Doing all that work got tiresome, and now you want to focus on the business and focus on helping them do better integrations, et cetera. So moving to Choreo alleviates us from doing all that. In addition, it's the cell architecture, that mindset, and separation, like for Workday, if those integrations don't perform as well, or they don't have the expectations of under milliseconds or seconds, they can have their isolated cell. So that looked promising to us, and that's one of the reasons we moved to it.
And for more information, we can go back to last year's session and look at all the details, right? So absolutely.
Yes.
So that's the tactical side. Simon, I want to come back on the benefits and outcomes side, right? So you spoke about this whole omni-channel CIM initiative. Can you talk through some of the outcomes? Like what was the before and after stage of that? Like what are the benefits that your customers are seeing, your stakeholders are seeing in the space?
I can give just some numbers. Now we have 1,000,000 loyalty customers and more than 80,000 full customers that are using our authentication services. And we have also started to use strongly the API, the integration part, in order to have a vertical integration also with the B2B partners,
right,
especially on the mobility services, really car parking, car rental, airport services, and so on. Those are becoming even more critical in the future in our portfolio services. So the vertical integration, I think, is something key. And considering that integration along with the identity management that we have implemented, we are giving a lot of business value in this sense. In terms of mobility services, we are also trying to scale up also the experience on our apps. So when we are thinking to the new way of developing the apps, the cloud-native way to develop the apps, we have also to think about the AI role.
Right.
So today, our customers are interacting with the apps in the classic way, so with the buttons, putting the information manually and so on. But we should also think in the future to a new way to interact with the app with the natural language. And this is also a frontier that we are starting to consider. And it's disrupting also the operating model and the business model that usually we have.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Before I go to the next question, where we have just got a little bit of time, any questions from the audience? We can give priority to that. Just raise your hand if you have a question. If not, I'll just keep going. Right? So we'll wrap this up because you are, the three of you are specialists and veterans in your industries, right? Let's not go into the age factor here, but experience. So basically, I would like to understand from a vertical perspective, what do you see as the future? What do you see as the forecast? And what's coming next in education, in maybe telco, and in petroleum, oil, and gas? Maybe Glenn will start with you. And maybe also mention a little bit about AI. If not, people will just walk away saying, what the hell is this? Right? So.
Well, part of that future in education is AI. There was a lot of hype with the generative AI. And for about a year or 2.5, a lot of education folks getting together talking about all of that. But now it's calming down, and they're focusing on helping faculty do their training, kids using it for pseudocode, all that kind of stuff, and also for the ML, real data scientist side of things. But the future, other things in education is teaching and learning where they are. So brick and mortar is still going to be there. It's not going away. But however, how do you take your education out to other people? And just like COVID, that's that digital transformation, being prepared with microservices, services, integration, way to move your data, that will help in that journey. So you can teach in the rural area somewhere far away from your campus. That kind of thing is in the future.
Right, perfect. And Richard, a short answer, because as you can see, the clock is stopped.
For me, it's about predictive analytics. So in switching, we have, as you imagine, we have a high availability server infrastructure. We've got Kubernetes. We've got everything running in the cloud. And we have to have that because it has to work. And if it doesn't work, it's national infrastructure, right? Mm-hmm. But I have always had the plans to be able to say, well, when are people switching their broadband? Is it on a Monday morning at 10 o'clock? Is it on a Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock? Is it on a particular month? And then if you use predictive analytics to go, actually, I'm going to predict when people are going to, you could then start to scale down some of the services. So there's a cost factor there to that. So, you start off massive and then you start, right, actually, we've seen in the past, we've had 5,000 switches on the 14th of January, but on the 13th, everybody was asleep. So that's really where I think the future of that sort of AI bit is coming in. And then looking at modeling people's behavior.
Right. Thanks, Richard. And Simon, finally you.
Yeah. We have three main areas. One is the customer relationship management, where AI could give a big value. Clearly, I am not thinking to virtual agents as we know now, but to something that is clearly able to interact with the customer, proposing new commercial offers, solving the problems, and clearly giving the immediate results to the customers. Another area is the efficiency on the business operation. I am thinking, for example, to the blending plants. I am thinking to retail station in terms of predictive analytics, as you said, Steve. But not only predictive analytics, also the possibility to innovate and to create a new operating model there. And another relevant area is about the employee services, and so all the HR processes that are involving the employees, create a new way of working with them, in which we are not only using technologies, but also we are leveraging with a new culture in terms of collaboration inside the company, and also with the main stakeholders that are outside the company. Right. Another relevant role where we see AI probably is relevant is to address also the behavior of our customers without the service in the future. Right. But for example, simulating with through the generative AI, their possible behavioral reaction toward the new product or new services that we would create.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks. Thanks again, gentlemen. I think we're out of time, so we'll skip the audience questions, but we'll all be around. Yeah. So if you need anything, just bump into these gentlemen and please talk to them. I think that's the end of the panel. That's the end of the keynotes session as well. We will be moving into lunch now, and then following lunch, we'll have the different tracks. And so all the details on the app, please check it out. Again, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you after lunch. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.